Welcome to another Wisdom Pod. We have Dave Hansen with us today. He is president at Client Tether. Tether. Love saying that word. Thank you for that, Dave.
Yeah,
Basically, we're gonna discuss franchises and CRMs today. Dave's a father, husband, coach. He's also a podcast host, so we're gonna discuss about podcasting. This pod, by the way, is brought to you by podpire.com, which is my podcasting agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to a podcast, find sponsors, we help people monetize the crap out of podcasts. Podcasts are great. You can learn from cool guests like Dave, having problems with the name and the spelling today, more caffeine incoming. They're also great because you can network with these folks and grow your network in the process. Networked with TH, that is Tether. Leads, clients, people listening to that podcast, they're CEOs, they're decision makers. So think of starting or scaling your pod. It can bring lots of joy to your life. And go to podpire.com, my podcasting agency. Dave, long intro, lots of misspellings. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and about Client Tether?
sure. No, but I got a second what you said about podcasting. I started it because there was a need for knowledge in this industry that wasn't being shared. There wasn't a lot of transparency there. And then found that through podcasting, when you mentioned it brings a lot of joy to your life. I've made dear friends that have been guests on my podcast. I've had people mention that it gave that, like I've had people ask me for introductions to people who've been on my guests on my show because they need the help. So it's been really rewarding. But let me talk about. So I've been the president of Client Tether for 5 years. Background in sales, marketing, strategy, and we're the leading sales automation CRM platform in the franchising industry. And so by the time people hear this podcast, the entrepreneur rankings will have come out, and we are #2 on the entire list of all franchising tech out there, ahead of FranConnect, Salesforce, Soho, like these huge monolithic companies. We're beating them in the space. Pretty proud of that. And but we that's what we do. And I also, on the side, as you mentioned, I'm a dad of 4 teenagers. I was coaching a very challenged, like difficult baseball, high school, and travel ball for a long time, and love doing that and getting outdoors.
Nice. Yeah, the podcast is quite amazing to meet new people, get insights as well. I don't even read books nowadays. I just interview 15 CEOs a day. So it's an amazing tool. And I actually started it to give back, but also I've seen this year that sales, like if I outreach to someone and I ask them for a call with me directly, the odds of them saying yes are quite small. People are doing more and more of that, and that offer is old now. So nowadays, I prefer just like, hey, let's start with a win-win podcast and then see how we can collaborate and make something. If you like me, if I like you, that makes way more sense. And I believe most salespeople are gonna sell that way in a year from now. What do you think about that pod selling thesis?
It's funny. That was a natural consequence of it. I discovered, and I realized, several people that were guests on my podcast. I have PR agencies and people that are trying to place people on the podcast now, right? So, but several of the guests, after we got to know each other, we usually spend 5-10 minutes to make sure we're pretty solid on a topic and they understand etiquette and kind of how we're going to roll it out. But even in that process, and then interviewing them, we become pretty good friends. And then they want to do business with people they trust. And so it's been a really good tool for that. Not the intention of it, but I've thought of. I mean, frankly, I could become more intentional about using it as a business development tool. Right now, I'm a purist, so trying to stay on point that I'm giving great value to the industry, and yet I think that's the natural side product of giving value to people. Honestly.
Tell me about franchises, because if I see like podcasts growing, franchises, it's not that I see it declining, it's just that I feel that it's an old model that is less and less used, or at least in my world, which is digital services. So tell me about the history of franchises, and if I'm totally wrong, if this is actually growing and still a very much of a win-win model.
Yeah, well, I'll start off by letting you know you are a little wrong about that. It's actually a very successful model that's growing very quickly. But there aren't really digital service franchises being deployed. most franchise growth right now is in, there's a franchise in almost every category of life. You mentioned before you want to go run your dogs today. There are all sorts of fast growing franchise systems that are building around pet care, elderly care, and end of life care. Healthcare franchises are growing okay. There's always food service. That's what everyone thinks of, like McDonald's and Wendy's and things like that. But they're also like fast growing and highly profitable home service businesses, as focused as like dryer vent cleaning to roofing to window cleaning. Like there are all sorts of services out there. Home services like cleaning the house, or janitorial for B2B. Taxes like Jackson Hewitt and Liberty Tax. Those are franchises. So the idea is really they've built a model that works and can be replicated, and they can prove that it works in other markets. And then you're buying into this business model that works, and you start on month 4 about where somebody started on year 4 of their business, without all the sunk costs and the wasted time and the reputation burn. So there's a lot of value to it when franchising is done right. I will say that.
Because let's say McDonald's success, for example. So the real estate part was the long-term game plan, and back then it was like a golden opportunity. There wasn't much competition out there. There wasn't systems that were built that way. People wouldn't have a clue if they would start their own restaurants of what to do and how to do it. So I think the value was huge, and potentially is in this modern world. Although I could just acquire a bunch of machines and devise those processes myself, but then do I know if I have the right machine? What if it breaks, and so forth? So yeah, I can potentially see the fit and the value in this modern market. Also, it follows the trend that people want to be entrepreneur more and more. I do think that is the future, but well, I'm talking about the restoration industry right now. The question I was about to ask is it saturated as a whole, this industry? And do you think that the franchise model itself is saturated, in the sense that if I want to start my franchise, I have 10,000 options. And if me, Charles, I want to start my business, as a result, it makes it way less attractive for me to go with the franchise model?
That's a really good question. So franchising is, not everyone needs a franchise. I will say that there are people that are truly entrepreneurial, that are funded, they know what they're doing. They can look at any industry and they can go and start their own company. That'll be more lucrative for them in the long run. It'll be maybe a little more expensive, or depends if they know what they're doing. Maybe it's plug and play. And so they can start their own company. They don't need a franchise. But there are a lot of people, and there are existing businesses that are, one of the trends in home services is rollover businesses, where I've got a client that they work in the roofing space. And so they are looking for active roofers, because roofers, people that tend to work with their hands, aren't very good at working with their fingers on a keyboard and maybe operating a P&L and managing their capital expenses. And like, they don't know how to run the business from the back office side of the business. They stink at collecting funds. They don't know how to market and get new leads. So a lot of them are actually rolling over a very successful technical business. Like, I can put a roof on better than anybody, but I don't know when my next job is. They're buying into franchises because the franchise system says, hey, we're going to generate your leads for you. We have a call center that's going to set appointments. All you got to do is show up and estimate it, and then have your crew do the work, which we can't do because we live in Baltimore and you live in Tallahassee, right? So there is some value there as well. But the reality is, not everyone needs a franchise. But people that aren't naturally, they don't have the pedigree, they don't have the education, they don't have the experience. A franchise, you can snap into that right away and operate like a 10-year vet. That's the real value of the system. It makes, and like you said, entrepreneurialism is hot. Everybody thinks they want to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's cut out for it, but the people that are maybe on the edge of if they could cut it or not, a franchise model can build enough systems around them to support them and help them succeed. So, unlikely business owners can become raving successes if they follow the plan.
Right. And the CRM, if I understand well, basically you offer a tool for franchisors to get more franchisees, to track the opportunities and make sure that these close into real clients.
Yeah. So our model, we've got two parts of our business model. The first one is, and where we started was at the unit operation. So if I'm running, let's say, a painting franchise, I think I've got like 7 painting franchises that I work with. they are they need something so that when they generate leads, their franchise owners across the country consistently follow up and rapidly follow up and schedule as many appointments as they possibly can, so they have a higher than average ROI on their marketing spend, so they have a higher than average close rate, higher than average P&L, right? We want them to have more money coming to the bottom line. That's where we started, and we're the best at that. Honestly, we're fantastic. But about 4.5 years ago, I had a lady call me who was a veteran at selling franchises, and I was new. I'd only been there about 4 or 5 months. Was just learning about franchising myself, even though our founder's been in it for like 20 something years. And she calls me. She's like, "Hey, I've seen some of your posts. Some of the brands that I sell have your technology, and they're fantastic, performing very well. Can I use this for FranDev?" And I said, "Janice, I don't know what does FranDev mean? I didn't even know what that word was. And it just means franchise development, franchise sales." And so she showed me what she was doing. She had like 5 different pieces of technology cobbled together to try to make it work. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is how I do it." She's like, "You idiot. Like, you can do everything I'm doing in one tool." And that was kind of where we started about 4.5 years ago, uh, promoting it as a franchise development tool. And now we're the top rated franchise management platform in the universe. Like, we beat everybody in all the rankings, and our CSAT, our net promoters are better than everybody. So we've really kind of taken it by storm, and almost by accident, to be honest with you.
How do you get your new clients typically? What's your GTM tactic?
Yeah, go to market. So this industry is really, really riddled with, and it's not a bad thing, but it's a trust-driven industry. Like, referrals are king. People have been in it for a long time. They trust each other, but not the new vendors. We're not new anymore, but so events, we spend a lot of FaceTime with people. We still get tons of referrals from our clients. We've got marketing partners and people that send us leads on a regular basis, because they know that they're going to, for them to be successful delivering their marketing service, there has to be a catcher's mitt on the back end, something that will work the leads and convert as many as possible, so there's ROI on the marketing spend. So we've got great partnerships that are driving success there as well. Some LinkedIn, a little bit of social, but it's really events and referrals and social that's driving. That's kind of our mix that we found works. Some digital things, they're okay. They're not performing super well. And that's pretty uniform across the industry, I think, for what we do.
Right. And any cold email campaigns or LinkedIn outreach going on? Like, what are your specific tactics and any systems that you use, AI tools?
Yeah, great question. So the cold email outreach, we actually did that for a while with 2 different entities. It doesn't work real well in our space. It's highly niche, highly nuanced, hard for that to work. It's really hard for people to develop proper lists to outreach, because franchising isn't really a category in any database, right? Not your Zoom infos, not your seamless AIs, like not the big data amalgamators. They're not like, here's a checkbox that says it's a franchise. So it was really difficult, we found, for them to target properly. And so we don't do much cold outreach, and most SaaS companies do that, but it's because they have a very defined industry that's in databases that way. But we do find LinkedIn works quite well. We've used some automated tools for that in the past. Some of us are still using them. I turn mine off. I'm busy enough now. I don't really have time to do net new prospecting that way. But we have a team of people that are doing more of that. We've used WeConnect.io. I've used AdiPro before. That's a client partner of ours. I like WeConnect a lot. We-Connect.io. It's a great tool. It's inexpensive. It's easy to program. And it works. The challenge, though, with some of those tools is they're getting hyper-regulated. You know this, Charles. Like, they're shutting down. I mean, I cannot afford to have my LinkedIn account frozen because I live there, right? I have a lot of clients that contact me. We're regularly posting content and creating engagement and brand visibility. So I've dialed mine down, where some of my team members continue to use them, and they're great.
Franchisees, maybe they live on Facebook or on Insta, for example, if they have the interest to start a business, if they're small business owners, existing ones, right? Would that be like a better lead gen strategy? They fill out this lead form and then you contact them via phone?
That can work. In fact, it's funny, even TikTok can be a great channel of engagement, right? You just have to have good content, and you can drive a lot of behavior. We're targeting franchisors, so that the headquarters executive team, and that's why we've gotten very, very surgical with our focus, because franchisees could buy and use our platform, but that's not really the play. Sometimes if you do that, you tick off the franchisor and then they block you from working with the system. And also you can undermine some of their strategies unintentionally by trying to go bottom up. So we always go top down. And so, then we'll have 50 units come on board rather than sell to 3 or 4 units and have the same amount of selling effort go into it. So that we find that tends to work a little better. Try to align with them so we don't interrupt and create synergy and value at the top and then work down.
Right, franchisors. Because if you on LinkedIn, there's a function to target like all the, you just put a keyword franchisor, then you could pull out these lists, make lists. I'm not sure, like, franchisors, how present they are on Facebook and Insta, but talking about your economics, your business economics, like what are your pricing packages and how much current clients you have?
Yeah, great question. We've got about 10,000 users on the platform, about 1,700, 1,800 companies operating daily on our platform. So it's a sizable and busy but growing platform. Our pricing, it ranges a little bit, quite a bit actually, because it depends upon usage. We do automated texting, calling, emailing, even brownies in the mail. If you want handwritten notes, can all be automated through our platform, and as well as being a CRM and a proposal system, payment processing, QuickBooks integration, review, online reputation. Like we kind of have all that into one package. And yet it'll vary because some people say, I don't really need this or that or the other. I just need the basic functionality of the sales automation. So, it can range. Usually a starting package for a franchisor might be like, a couple $100 a month. And we don't license per user. We license it so you can have a fixed tech fee. A unit level license might be, let's say about half of that, maybe $115 a month. And that's unlimited users with all the sales automation built in and visibility reporting top down from the franchisor and everything they need at the unit level to be successful. So it just depends, but we try to stay in that healthy range because that's what people can afford, and it fits into the tech fee that franchisors are locked into. They can only collect so much from their franchisees, and other platforms that license per user, they quickly have exponential cost growth, and then they have to replace them because they don't fit the budget anymore.
What are your top 3 goals for this year?
Top 3 goals, we've got a mobile app that's coming out. We have so many field service companies that work in our platform that we need to roll that out. We've delayed because we have a good web optimized app, but it's time. So that's almost done. Another key goal is just adding a couple of marquee accounts. We've done that already this year. So, and we've got a revenue target we're going to hit this year. I won't share that publicly, but we've been on track to hit that since about March. So it looks like we're going to have a good year there as well. And then I've got a few key hires I'm making on our executive team as we grow. Like that's just, as we grow, we need to have continued focused effort in certain parts of the business. So that's just part of the strategy.
Right. What does a day in the life of Dave look like?
It was chaotic. That's the first word that comes to my mind. But I mean, I have to live by a calendar because I'll have sometimes 10 to 12 meetings a day when things are busy. But partners, I try to balance time. I've got referral partners that I'm working with, industry partners, but I spend a lot of time with franchise brands that have our SDR team has pre-qualified them and they're ready to have a conversation. So I work with them. I've got several enterprise clients that I work with, platform groups that I'm engaging to work into expanding to new parts of their portfolio. I shed off a lot of interest. People are reaching out regularly looking to see if they can buy us. So like there's a little bit of that where I've got to do some due diligence and then say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. So it's kind of a mix, to be honest with you. I wish I had more time just to do traditional biz dev because I love reaching out to people and connecting, but we've got a team now that helps with that. So that part of our business is going very well. And then marketing, we got trade shows and things. Marketing rolls into me, so I make sure that I'm staying on top of what's happening next, working with our marketing manager to keep on top of the trade shows and events that we go to, coordinate the online digital. So it's a mix. But if I didn't have a calendar and I didn't stick to it, I would be in trouble. I wouldn't get as much done. That's for sure.
Right. Do you feel that most of what you're doing nowadays could be potentially outsourced to an AI?
No, I actually know the AI world real well. I grew up in it in the language industry. We built the models that everyone's getting all excited about, the NLP. So there are a lot. The model's changing though, right? So AI is not going to take over the world. It's going to change the world. At least that's what happened in the language industry. So you'll see, instead of people who are writing content They're not going to write content anymore. They're going to edit content and fine-tune content, because AI doesn't write well enough to replace humans totally. Unless you're writing sloppy blog posts just for SEO, they can do that without much intervention. But it's not, when you read it, you're like, it's not, it's uncanny valley. It's not quite great. You know what I mean? So, but what happens is AI can take away 80% of the workload for our marketing team, and we've embraced that. You can do some design. The design stuff through AI is not good. So anything that's got a lot of creativity and flair to it, I'd say AI is not a good fit for. Having conversations with people. A conversational AI is not quite there. For sales qualification, complex discussions, talking about the weather and setting up an appointment for me to go get my haircut, we got that covered with AI. So, but pre-qual, there are parts of the sales cycle that we're actively looking at and integrating AI into our processes, because we already do so much in that area. So I think there are a lot of places top of funnel where AI's got a great play. Mid funnel, bottom funnel, I don't think it'll ever really help too much, other than maybe make recommendations of, hey, they're this part of the sales cycle, maybe salesperson, here's some coaching. The last 10 deals have been closed, and these have been the behaviors of the people that have closed them. It can start to do those sorts of things, do some deep logic and some coaching. I think that's where AI will take place and really have an impact on the lower funnel in the sales life.
Any goals on the podcast?
Honestly, I mean, listenership is continuing to grow steadily. For me, I think there's some personalities that I've realized I get very tactical. We talk about a lot of content that's really executable, but there are a lot of people, I've got a few guests lined up that are more inspirational. I'd like to include a lot more of that. A couple of friends of mine that are, one's a quadriplegic, one's a paraplegic from accidents, and they're some of the top 50 motivational speakers in the country. And I want to lace in a lot more of that, so that we can also work on ourselves, right? Because working on the business is one thing, but you are the business really when you're an entrepreneur. And so you've got I had a CFO I didn't agree with on a lot of things, but one thing he said that was really wise once is, hey, if we're going to grow the business 50% this year, then we all have to grow 50% this year. So what are we doing to grow? And I feel like that's part of what I want to focus on too, not just applicable knowledge to operate business systems, but how about ourselves? How about our mindset? How about learning to live with gratitude and abundance, like things like that we forget about sometimes when we're getting too tactical with our business.
True. Where can people find out more about you, Dave?
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great way to connect with me. So just find me there. I'm on, my podcast is the Advisory Board Podcast. If you're in franchising or looking to start a business, there's a lot of good content in there. That's a great place too. And you can shoot me an email, dave@clienttether.com. I'd be happy to take a message and see if I can help or connect you to somebody who I think might be an expert.
And I am Charles Cormier, host of Founder Wisdom Podcast.com or CEO Wisdom Podcast.com. That was Dave Hansen.